So in the last two videos, we've looked at two formulas, the sum formula and the if formula, and this time we're going to combine them together by looking at the sum if formula. Makes a lot of sense. Now, I've created this, which is a sort of imaginary, if we go into one of the months, what it might look like. Imagine that you're the kind of person that does like to keep track of every expenditure. You'd have something like this: the item, the cost, and the category that that item fits into. And so this is quite common when it comes to budgeting, and you'll have something like this. You'll have your different categories. This is very simple, but you know, food, luxuries, gifts, bills, that kind of thing. Now, what we want to fill in is this section here. Now, it would be very difficult if you just manually had to do this every time. There are ways of doing it, but it's much easier to use the sum if formula. I'll just make a quick note. As you can see, I've done something here to what's called freeze the panes above row 9. So that's just if you might have lots of items and you're scrolling down, and then every time it would be a pain to have to scroll back up to look at your categories list. And so the way to do that is, so rather than having this situation where you're all the way down here and then you have to keep scrolling all the way back up to the top, if you click in whatever cell it is that you want, where you want the freezing of panes to take place, and then click on go to view and then go to freeze panes and freeze the panes, that will fix in place everything above and left of the cell that you've clicked in. So I've clicked in A9. That means everything above it, rows 1 to 8, are frozen in place, so I can scroll down to my heart's content. And this all remains here as a sort of dashboard that I can kind of keep looking at however far down I go. So that's just a useful little tip. But yeah, what we really want to do is now fill in these sections here. So you want to add up anything that fits into these categories from the entries below. And the way to do that is with the formula. So equals, and then sum if is the formula that we're going to be using. Now open the bracket, and if you're a beginner, I suggest also closing it just so you keep yourself correct. Now you might get that error because you need to go back inside the brackets and it might complain because it's like, oi, you've not finished doing this correctly. And then look at how many commas you need. So, like that. Now you know that you've got the correct syntax. This is just a helpful way to do it if you're starting out. And the first thing that it's going to ask for is the range, and after that, the criteria inside that range that you're looking for. So what that means is it knows that you want to only sum certain things if they satisfy that criteria. And those things are going to be within that range, a range that you've specified. So in this case, it's food. We want to know everything that sums together that fits into the food category. And so when it says, well, what's the range? It's asking for the criteria range first. That's here. That's this range. So I'm going to select C11 to C16 because this is where the criteria is held. And I immediately now, out of habit, whenever dealing with fixed ranges, just remember F4 will fix it in place. So that's now locked, and you can move this formula. Basically, you can move it around without worrying that that range is going to be affected. So now I've selected the relevant range. Now it want to know, okay, so inside that range, what's the criteria? What you're looking for? Well, it's food, because that's the category we're dealing with. Now you could just type food. Remember, if it's simple text, always inside a formula, always surround it with the speech marks. You could do this, but this isn't actually tremendously useful. I think because what you might want to do is change this to something like groceries, for example. Now, the much better thing to do, therefore, is to just click here where you on the item that you're wanting to test for, the criteria that you're looking for, A4. So it's whatever's in A4, it's now going to look for inside this range. And it's going to sum it together, but it needs to know, well, what range am I actually summing together? Now, obviously, that's going to be this range here. And again, force of habit, a very good habit, fix that range in place. So now we're definitely only ever going to look at these two ranges, But you might ask, why haven't I fixed in place A4? Well, that's because that range isn't fixed. Because what's going to happen now, if I press enter now, I finished the formula, it says 27. Now that's going to be the takeaway and lunch, but there's nothing else that's in the food category, so it's adding that together correctly. Now, what happens is, obviously, if you've frozen A4 as well, and now you copy that all the way down, it's just doing exactly the same thing every time. Click inside the formula, you can see there, it's always only looking for food. So that's why you would not freeze A4. You would let that be a variable range, copy, paste that all the way down, and then you've got your update here, and it's adding everything together. But you can see there is a problem. This isn't working exactly the way that you want to. It's not adding some things together. And that's because we've got these categories, luxuries and gifts. But when you were filling it out, you typed it as luxury and gift. So that presents us with a problem, which we're going to fix in the next video. However, I will just quickly fill this total in as well, which is what we've done before, the sum, a simple sum of that range. And yeah, just freeze the whole thing in place. There you go, and you've got your total there. But it's not correct because we need to fix this error. So to fix that, you could just manually fix it, but there's another kind of little habit I want to show you that will be very helpful. So next tutorial, see you there.